Degrees outside at 14 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. Chris Lenois back with you on the Green Mountain Mornings program. Commonsnews.org is the website for your reader-supported independent news and views source for Windham County. And every Friday we get together with Randy Holhut, its deputy editor, to talk about stories found in this week's edition. Good to see you, sir, or at least talk to you, even though I can't see you.
Oh, sure, you're magic. I can see everything. Yes. Hi, Chris. Hello, everybody. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. I guess we could go into some sort of Skype mode or something like that. But, the phone line, a landline, it's reliable connectivity. I'm a big believer in this phone line situation. Now, an abridged version of our conversation today, we're only going to do one segment because you've got places to go and people to see, but appreciate you keeping us part of your schedule here. And really two stories on the front page that you were directly involved in. One, Governor Phil Scott's visit to the area and the Brattleboro Area Chamber of Commerce Luncheon. You were there as a photographer for the Commons. Great photo, by the way, of the governor shaking hands with Addie May during this. Seems like, I think that's a good representation of how he went over in Democratic Progressive Brattleboro. People, by and large, I'd say, found him very congenial.
Yeah, he's not going to have. He hasn't got any Elvis in him like Peter Shumlin does. He's going to be, somebody who's just going to take care of things and not cause a big stir and not come up with any bold or visionary things. Just keep trucking along, and that's pretty much the message he gave at the chamber. There was no bold initiatives there, and just kind of the same thing we've been hearing about. Oh, there's fewer school kids. Oh, there's fewer workers. Oh, we're getting older. We got to live within our means. Blah 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 blah.
Right. Well, you're Mike Fair, who wrote the story that accompanied your photos, was on the show on Tuesday, the day after the luncheon, and we both agreed. Yeah, he doesn't give you nearly as good copy as Peter Shumlin did to work with here. And it all sounded very much like still a campaign-style speech to me when he was talking about the whole 6-3-1 and maybe saying, oh, we're making progress on this. But I didn't really hear anything. And granted, we're only 100 days into his administration here and not even done with the legislative session, but really felt more like a campaign stop than a governor, hey, this is what we've gotten done.
Well, he certainly has more convincing to do in the southern part of the state since it didn't support him, particularly Brattleboro.
Yeah.
So he had to kind of be in campaign mode to win over people in the room who probably didn't vote for him.
No, probably didn't vote for him, but I would say that if you're looking for a sympathetic audience in Southern Vermont, the Chamber of Commerce is probably going to be about as sympathetic as he's going to get in this state, right? When you're talking about the business community.
Plus the odds of having more Republicans in the room.
Yeah. So, I think they would be receptive to the message, but I think even they would hope for results. And obviously, we're not even done with the session right now, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Mike chose to focus on his visit to the retreat. Kind of surprising that the governor has never been to the retreat since he's been in the public spotlight as lieutenant governor for as long as he has, but definitely seemed like a good visit there as far as understanding some of the challenges they've faced in this post-Irene world and also some of the challenges just keeping mental health workers.
Well, if you figure, how much money the Agency of Human Services takes up in the budget every year and how much mental health takes up of the Human Services budget, and the adjustment the state has had to make with a decentralized mental health system with instead of having Waterbury, having sites scattered throughout the state, the retreat, being one of the linchpins of the system, taking care of the more harder core patients at the Tyler unit. It was a good idea for the governor to check out and see what's being done with the state's money.
Yeah, and the at-risk youth, and then this really innovative program. I wasn't aware of this aspect of what the retreat was offering until reading Mike's story and then talking about it. The the child care for some of the patients at the retreat. And that spoke very directly to some of the things the governor was talking about when he uses that 631 formula and that one child born to an addicted parent each and every day here in the state of Vermont. That seems to me to be a real great innovation that the retreat has undertaken.
Yeah, the kids tend to be the forgotten people in the whole opioid epidemic, the ones who have to kind of, well, they're kind of orphaned while their parents are still alive, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a appropriate description when you hear some of the stories about that. So hopefully he'll take that back to Montpelier and continue to try and do some work to support the retreat as well as other parts of the state doing what the retreat is doing. Another story on the front page of the Commons that has your byline on it, Randy, about the First Baptist Church on Main Street. But before we get into the content of the story, I got to ask you about the photo. Is there a photo treatment on it to wash out the backdrop there, or did you just happen to shoot this church on a particularly cloudy day?
It was a gray day, so that's how it happened.
And I tell you, that's incredible because, I mean, first of all, the First Baptist Church on Main Street really does pop out. And there are some pretty interesting buildings on Main Street, but that one in particular. But the way you were able to photograph someone, did they just like blur out the background, but it just happened to be a gray day?
No, well, with the way Jeff treats the photos, here's some inside graphic design talk.
Yeah, I wanted a little bit of that.
Tends to take out the black out of the photos so they'll print better.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it worked. It's a very dramatic photo, but again, that's a dramatic building, and I loved your take on it. I mean, and obviously it looks like a very historic church, but you did seemingly a lot of digging into the history of the church and some of the features that if people, and I've only been inside that church, I think twice in my life to see that SD organ and to see some of those stained glass windows. It really is a wonderful structure.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that the same person that designed the Brooks House and designed the old Unitarian Church, what's called the Stone Church today, also did First Baptist Church.
Yeah.
So but the organ, of course, is the gem, the signature feature of that. Plus, apparently, there are no flat surfaces in the main church building.
Nope.
So it's really acoustically one of the better rooms in Brattleboro. And I still remember this New Hope choir from Newark, New Jersey, coming up and doing their two shows in Brattleboro and shaking that building.
Well, and the new owner of the building, Bob Johnson, and his vision for a performance and conference space, more people will get to enjoy the acoustics in there and enjoy the visuals of that building, it sounds like. But the focus of your story was this transition of ownership from the congregation there, and it sounds like there's no regrets on their part as far as how this whole transaction has gone down.
Well, like a lot of churches in Vermont, their parishioners or their congregation is dealing with just declining enrollment and increased expenses, and you can imagine how much money it costs to keep a building that's almost 150 years old from falling down. And how even selling off some of the jewels like the Tiffany window, that money got sucked up right away with fixing the roof. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's not a good proposition for spiritual communities to own their property. I mean, leasing right now so they can, as Jeannie Deo says, focus on their mission and also focus on bringing more people into the congregation. I imagine this is something that's happening in other communities, not just in Vermont, but across the U.S.
Yeah, and in the case, we think of what happened in Putney when their church went out and became the next stage. They not only got rid of the building, they got rid of the church itself because they couldn't sustain it. First Baptist really wanted to avoid that. They still feel that they're viable as a faith community, and they're reaching out to the community to say, come on and check us out. I mean, you see us on BCTV. We broadcast the services on there. If you like what you see, come on in person. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they have a agreement with Bob Johnson, rent-free in that church for the next 3 years, so certainly helping them get their footing. Now, with regards to Mr. Johnson and his plans for a performance and conference space in that Baptist church and also owning the Stone Church, does he have a master plan, do you think, for that upper part of Main Street? Has anyone ever talked to him about this?
No, we haven't, but I don't know if he's into church collecting or, he has his eye on center congregational next, so he can have a complete set, or maybe
collect them all, right? But I mean, that's where Omega got its start, was pretty much smack dab in the middle of those two churches. So you wonder, I mean, he clearly has some sort of affinity for that upper part of Main Street, or this nostalgic feeling for it.
Yeah, but also, the First Baptist Church is a historic building with fantastic acoustics. Musicians like playing in there when there's secular shows in there. The organist, of course, the Esty Museum loves to put concerts in that building to show off the big Esty organ.
Yeah.
And it's a way of just keeping that building viable. And that's the Stone Church. It's a nice space too. But you kind of wonder, it's still just, a hall, and the churchiness has kind of been taken away.
True. Yeah, the renovations with some of the temperature controlled and some of the things they've installed on there as a performance space, the churchiness is definitely gone. It will be interesting to see what he does with this First Baptist Church space, and it is more of a community space now, if it is something that he is opening up as a performance and conference space. Great story by you in this week's edition of The Commons. I know you got a roll, so appreciate you taking some time to highlight a couple of the front page stories today, Randy. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And once again, that was Randy Holhut, deputy editor of the reader-supported, award-winning News and Views source for Windham County. Shorter conversation with him today coming up after the news break. Chantalee Gander of the Arts Council of Windham County. Stick around.